Welcome to the Private Lenders Podcast with your host from Hard Money Bankers, Jasonbalin and Chris Haddon. This podcast is sponsored by hardmoneymastermind.com.
Hey everyone, thanks for checking out the show. Chris and Jason here as always. If you haven't done so already, go check out hardmoneymastermind.com. Take a look at the online community, upcoming events, everything we have going on in this world of private lending. So, all right, as we're recording this, it's Monday. We just closed 6 loans on Friday, which is a good day for us, obviously, a good week. And we want to jump on and talk a bit about those deals, how we're sourcing them, and basically what origination has looked like this year compared to the rest of the business.
Yeah, absolutely. We've had a pretty so-so year, to say the least. It's interesting because deal volume's been down a little bit, but net income has been up, which is a good thing, right? Like, who doesn't want to do the least amount of deals and have the least amount of risk, but still make more money? Like, that's ideal. Part of that is because let's talk about the income side, then we'll talk about the deal flow side. Part of the income side is, we have loans that are staying on our books maybe longer, and we have extension fees, right? And we have extension fees. Maybe we have some defaults, so we have more default interest, late fees, things like that. So net income, obviously, that's the number one metrics, obviously, is net income, not necessarily units
Sure.
and volume. And obviously those are all good things to track, but net income's the important one. And we have by no means had a bad unit or a bad volume year. It hasn't been like that at all. It's just slightly light, right? Give or take. Ideally we try to hit about $4 million a month, and it's just under that, month after month after month. So, and part of that also is, we're doing like $250,000 loans, regularly. Those are kind of like the average loan amount, 225, 250 kind of regularly. And, sometimes that's just because, as that happens, you're kind of reliant on one big deal here and there. That moves the meter, right? Like, we closed, was it last month? I think it was last month we closed, $1.2 million loan, right? And all of a sudden, that's, 5 deals in one. We have 2 $1.5 million deals that, are planning to close between now and the first week of July, right? So like that moves the meter. One of our loans that we closed this past, or 2 of the loans we closed on Friday were for a repeat borrower. One of them was 250, one of them 610, right? With one borrower. So that's, 4 deals in one. So I think, if you're listening to this, you probably can resonate with how that happens. Is you're chugging along and you're doing your widgets, your average deals, throughout, and then you kind of do a bigger deal. Maybe it's a commercial deal, maybe a larger residential deal, and all of a sudden it's like, oh wow, that's 4 or 5 deals in one. That's pretty nice to have.
That definitely moves the numbers when you get a, 750 loan amount, 1 mil above. And one thing I really love about this business model is that once you get to scale and you're closing deals, you have a good amount outstanding, good team, the revenue does start coming from all angles, which is really cool. It's not just about what we close this month to determine what that bottom line income is going to be, but it was all the other stuff that Jason mentioned. Like, every month we get some good extension fees coming in. Pretty much every month we get a good default payoff, which a bunch of late fees, back interest, stuff like that. And, like we lend in a few different areas, and those areas, we call them offices for the most part, and they're run by different partners. And somebody will have a down month, but then 2 other offices will have a good month, or maybe the local ones, having a great month. And then it just starts coming in from all angles, which is one of my favorite parts about this business.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And, we were joking the other day because our one New Jersey office had a very, very poor month.
In May.
And was that May? Yeah, May.
Yeah, I think that was May.
But he had a few really good defaulted loans that paid off with big exits and extension fees. And it was like, wait a second. Like, we made, in essence, the same amount of money as we would have made
on a good closing month.
As a good closing month. Just because we had all that stuff. So that's accurate. Let's go through. I'm just going to pull up our pipeline.
Yeah, I'm taking a look at it too.
Where a lot of the deals came from. And I'm looking at it now. So as I say this, like there's some pros and cons of hearing this. So most of these deals were past clients. And I know if you're listening, kind of the con of that is like, oh yeah, well, I was trying to figure out the secret sauce of where, all the loans are coming from today. And there's two ways to look at that is, listen, we're still marketing our butts off every day. We're doing all the free stuff. We're doing all the paid stuff. We're trying to get, our phones are ringing day in, day out, nonstop for myself, Dave in our office, and then our other 3 originating partners. So 5 people are originating kind of full time to try to get as many deals as possible. And a lot of these deals still end up being past clients, right? But again, you got to do a deal for a client once just so they can turn into a repeat client. So the good news of / bad news of like, hey, out of the last 6 or 7 loans, they're all repeat clients except one that was an organic one from local SEO that hit our website, which I'm happy that happened. But like, that's a good sign that, you build a book of business and you have the same borrowers that you're able to do multiple loans for over and over and over and over. And, it's pretty regular that the majority of our borrowers are repeat, right? Like we spend a lot of time, we spend a lot of money trying to bring in new business. And if we can get those things converted and closed, that's great, because we know that, the majority of everyone that we do a loan for, and mostly the fix and flip stuff, not as much on the commercial side, will turn into a repeat borrower. So it's good to see that, we have that many repeat borrower loans this past, let's just say Friday.
Yeah, I was watching a Gary Vee video over the weekend, and he was talking about width versus depth, and it definitely applies to us. So width being, we try to cast a wide net and be everywhere we can. Like if a potential borrower or a repeat client is seeing us all over the internet, we're in their email inbox, we're probably in their voicemail, could even be text. They could see our ad, they could see us on social, right? Like we try to get as many eyeballs on HMB as possible. And then the depth comes when we get to do a deal for somebody and form a relationship, learn about their business, see how we can help them grow, do more deals, do better deals, all that stuff, right? And develop that relationship with people so that we can lend to them over and over and over. That's the depth as it comes in. And yeah, when I look at that one particular day, we have, like you mentioned, a repeat borrower. We did 2 loans for him in one day. Really solid DC area guy. He owns a real estate brokerage as well. I've known him for a long time. I see we closed one for Josh's top client, Central PA. We've lent to them probably a dozen times now. Yeah, that one new one. And you mentioned that one organic lead hasn't interacted with us at all before. He's not in our database.
Yeah.
Nothing like that. Like that was a new.
And like we try to do over the years, we've really tried to hone in on where our deals are coming from. I think that's important.
Yeah.
And we know that they come from everywhere, and you try to track them the best that they can. I was hoping that was coming from a paid AdWord, Google ad, and not just Google organic, but that's okay. Like they come from everything. And it's, people ask us all the time, like, hey, if I spend $5,000 on Google ads, what can I expect in return? And like, I don't know the answer to that, right? Like that's a hard answer, because what we care about and what we're focused on is if the leads and inquiries that are coming in, paid and organic, or real estate investors that are local, that's what we care about. And that's what we've always cared about, because we have a system that will, let's say, nurture them forever. And if we do a loan for them in 10 years, I'm happy. 10 years later, I'm happy that they came in today. So it's hard to determine if, hey, we put $1 in today, are we going to get $10 out tomorrow? That's what we think it is. That's what we think it is, but we're not sure. Like we're pretty much under the impression that for every 1,000 we spend, we should be getting out about 10,000, give or take. Maybe it's 2,000. Maybe it's 1,000 on another campaign. I don't know. We think it's probably about that. And it's hard to get exact data because things are coming from all over the place. And, when we try to track stuff, sometimes we even try to track stuff from refer 1, 2, and 3. What do I mean by that? So, we met them at a meetup group, right? And they were put into our email database. Then they went online and filled out a loan application that we paid for. That's okay. And they're back into our email database 2 years later. And then, they picked up the phone and they called us. And we ended up doing a deal for them. Like, what does that track to? The meetup group, the online, the call in, like, who knows? So the point is I think the best metric to always look at is how much does it cost, either time or money, to speak to a real estate investor who is local, a real estate investor that's local. I think that's the best metrics to do. And I don't exactly know financial, economically, exactly how that backs out, exactly what those numbers are. 18 years later, I still don't know what those numbers are. I just know that it's a good thing if we're talking to lots of real estate investors every day. I'm a happy person if we're talking, if us and our entire team is on the phone talking to real estate investors every day, good things will happen.
Yeah, it is really tricky to dial in on those typical marketing metrics that people talk about. Like if you study marketing and, Hormozy and all those kinds of people, like ROAS, return on ad spend. It's tough, right? Like we would love for it to be 5x, 10x, but in what time frame? It's a moving target. And then also LTV, and I'm not talking about loan to value here. In this case, it's talking about lifetime value of a customer is a moving target too, because every month they make a payment, those numbers change, right? That being said, if we're getting $100 loan applications, which is about what we're averaging, maybe slightly more, and we could spend $10,000 and get $100 loan apps, and they're quality, they've been quality, we're going to lend to these people at some point.
Yeah.
Right. And then as soon as we get one to convert, then that whole ad spend is covered, right? Doesn't take a lot in a business where like you have a minimum fee of like 10K, even on a small deal. Like you probably make 10K during the life of the loan and double that if you're lending your own funds.
So I'll tell you something interesting that Shane told me, who does a lot of our paid ads and our local SEO and some organic stuff for us and meta ads and things like that. And I knew this, but it was funny just hearing him say this. So the other day when he was in our office, I think that was right before our June event, he was in our office and he goes, "Hey, you spent 7 figures on this AdWords account, over $1 million on this AdWords account." And I was like, "Yeah, it's been running for 18 years. It's been running since like we started in the business."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Yeah, it was just interesting to see that you guys spent $1 million on that." And I was like, "Yeah, but like how much has that made us back since then?" I don't know that answer. Although I do know that there's a few borrowers that we've lent to over the years that were multiple 6-figure borrowers, big loan amounts, lots of deals for them over and over and over and over. Some commercial deals, some bigger actually, the one I'm particularly thinking about is I think we did $6 million in loans for this particular guy over probably 6 or 8 years on maybe 10 assets or 10 different loans, larger loan amounts. But like, listen, if we're talking like we're talking about, if we're talking to real estate investors every day or commercial property owners every day, good things are going to happen. It's just a matter of time. I don't exactly know what, our return on time, our return on money is, but good things will happen. And that's what we're in the business for.
Yeah. Hopefully if you're listening or watching this, you're experiencing the same thing, especially when we were talking earlier about the multiple revenue streams. And once you get to scale, how you see that magic work, it just starts coming in from all angles. And it just goes to prove that, this model's a great one. Ever since we started in this business in the end of 2007, like we've been impressed by this model. I still am. And now we've had the opportunity to see that with other members of the mastermind as they grow, and that bottom line income becomes a real substantial number. And that is super cool to see when other lenders follow that trajectory. 5 million outstanding, 10, 20. We've seen it happen many, many times. I hope you're there too. If you're looking for that build, if you're looking to increase your lending and your revenue and your bottom line, check out hardmoneymastermind.com, and we'll see everyone here next time on the podcast.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Private Lenders Podcast. Please note that the opinions stated by all the speakers on this show are only opinions and not intended for legal, financial, or accounting advice. Please make sure to always check with your own legal, accounting, and financial professionals. If you enjoyed this episode of the Private Lenders Podcast, we'd appreciate it if you would spread the word. Make sure to check out hardmoneymastermind.com, the #1 free community for new and experienced private and hard money lenders.